Hey folks, episode 12. Looks like we're doing some emergency work. Being clumsy as I am, putting all my plants back from episode 11. Knocked my Ficus triangulata variegata off the shelf, broke the pot. So now it's time for an emergency repot. I am not going to be doing any real root work on it, but I'm going to put it into a smaller pot. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to readjust the camera and we're going to get after this. All right, so I think you can see just fine. I'm gonna move the dog water up so I'm not pouring bonsai soil above it. And dog food up too. Okay, terrible crash, not happy about it. So here's where we are. This is a crazy looking funny pot. This is the Ficus triangular. I showed this earlier. It didn't have this many leaves on at the time. It's actually really doing well with its growth. It's a little sucker, I don't want it. I'll pull off that sucker since we've already got it out. Another one here that I'm gonna leave, this little leaf, because these are really high roots anyways. In fact, this one isn't doing anything for me. So I'm just gonna pull it right off. Yeah, it was dead. This one may be okay. So I had this in bonsai soil and I can tell already from looking at it, because the pot was only so big, that a lot of this is actually filled in that pot pretty well. It's not a very symmetrical root base, but I don't have anything coming straight down really. Like I can really push it down to there without any issue. So I think I'm gonna put it in this pot. I'm gonna do my best to bury it as well as I can. Again, yeah, there's some new roots down here, which is awesome. And I can take off, hi bud. I can take off this one right here, because even though it's not terrible, I think it's one of the ones that was preventing me from going a little deeper in that pot. There's one over here too that I can feel. Yeah, it's a little thicker. So come in and there we go. Yeah, so now it'll sit nice and flat in this pot. I know it's not the prettiest pot. I know it's not the best pot for this plant, but because I haven't yet picked an angle for this, you know, and I'm hoping I'm really nicely focused here. Yeah, I'm nicely focused enough. I really think that I want to change the angle. So you're looking down at it. Again, this root may or may not be alive. I'm not really going to commit to checking on that, but I am going to take off this little root right here because I think it'll just, yeah, it's dead. So the thing about some of this, I mean, not all of it, not always, but sometimes when you've got roots that are smaller like this, it's good to get rid of them right away, because the plant can heal a lot better from a smaller wound than a big wound. Like this may never show up in the future. You can see I've got a teeny tiny wound right here. Not from me, that's from before me, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so generally, actually, you know what? This root is not doing anything for us. But generally, yeah, you can let it grow, you can let it do all those things, but to do it early, I mean, sacrificial branches are a real thing, but to do it early, these need to be sharpened, or they're bent. But to do it early means you don't have to worry about those getting messed up. Now again, lots of beautiful growth. I'm not going to do any real trimming on this. This is dead. So I did lose a little bit of the top of this one, so I'm going to just take that little nub off. I do still have a stump there, but I'm going to leave it because I don't want to cut into this any more than I already have. So that looks okay. Actually, the moisture level in the soil was great when I started on this. I'm going to tie down my screen. I know this doesn't have any feet. What I'll do is I'll either put some feet on it, or I'll just put it on top of some pennies or something, anything to space it up so I get air in here. It's not just having room for your wire. The more airflow you have down below, the better your distribution of water within that pot's going to be. So if you don't have any drainage, Of course, all the water sits at the bottom, but the same thing happens with airflow. It's still fluid dynamics. So if you have not enough space under your pot, or you have it buried in something, if there's not enough airflow in there, that water is still going to drain to the bottom and kind of sit there. Much the same way as when you pour a water bottle on its side, you can have a lot of air coming in through the top. But if you dump it completely upside down, it glub, 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 glub. It's very rough and it takes a lot longer to drain. Now I know the trick with soju. You can just do the twist and it does the cyclone. You don't want cyclones in your bonsai soil. It's a terrible idea. This is probably too big for this area, but I don't want to cut it down because this is a nice reusable one. I do have a screen that I've been using for other things, but for this one, I think I'll be okay using this, and it'll make sure that I at least have a little bit of gap under there. I'm not real fancy when I tie down my plants. I kind of do the same thing a lot of people do, is I make an S and then turn down the ends. That way I get, some sort of extra space. One thing that I do like doing is when it comes down to bending these down, it doesn't matter how far apart they are, as long as you put them closer together than you need, because you can always pull these that way, everything else. I do check to see where I need to be, so I'm about where I need to be now. I find the easiest way to put it through here, which is probably that. I push it through. So now it's on the back here. I always use my thumbs to flatten this down as much as I can. And not pushing on the hole, but pushing on the sides to make sure these are nice and level. And then on the back, holding that down, I will grab these and pull them over. A lot of people use pliers, something like that. I recommend that. Sometimes these edges can be sharp, and it's not as easy as you think it is to exert force to make these flat. But I just do it with my fingers because my fingers are seeing more hot metal than I think most metallurgists do in a day. So this is now no rattle, no movement. I might be able to, no, I can't even twist it. It's very sturdy in there, which is what you want. You don't have to tie these down, but know that you will have some movement there and it may create issues. I do like having it this way, and you can see I even made sure my S's, this one comes out this way, this one goes out that way. It doesn't really cross over any of these holes. Same thing with the center of it. I try to make sure it kind of stays along an intersection to have as little impact on the drainage as possible. Now it does kind of cut this hole in half and this hole in half, but it only takes the corner out of these two. So really I've got larger holes for all the water to come through. You really want air in, air out. I may put more holes, smaller holes in this in the future for a tie down, but this has enough roots on it. I don't think I need a tie down. So yeah, that's where we're at. Oh, man. See, I look at this thing, I've got this giant root coming off down here. Got a lot of giant roots. That's okay, it's not the time for that. I'm gonna let this continue to grow. Roots are the one place where I don't worry about scars. I worry more so about having it healthy. So to keep this healthy, I've already taken off a little bit. I'm gonna leave it there. And I think you all have seen this before. I was gonna use it as a pot, but you know what? It works really nicely to scoop bonsai soil. So I'm gonna put a layer in the bottom here, give it a little shake. There are a lot of fines in here, but that's okay. I'm gonna mound this up. I'm actually gonna use a smaller scoop to give myself a little bit of a mound. So even though there's a lot of fine bonsai soil in there, it's okay. This plant won't be hurt for it. Yeah, you know what? Before I put it in, I've got this one coming straight up too, and I don't want that. So to keep things a little bit farther down, I'm gonna come in here and take this off. I also think it's dead. Sorry, I think it's dead above the surface. So yeah, there's nothing to it. It was coming straight up, not good. This is also coming straight up. But let's see how much it's got attached to it. See, not that much. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that too. I know, I'm talking about not doing root work, but believe it or not, this is that good stuff. So there was some attached to that, but not as much as I thought there would be. Most of this in between is kind of dead because it was just pointed up. Let's see, I've got another sucker here that I can kind of peel off. Cut this down a little more flush. That's a little better. Now I can sort out these roots a little bit. Oh, that was another dead one. A little bit better. So this is not dead, but again, it's pointed up. I don't want that. All right, so I didn't perfectly organize these roots, but things that just aren't going to be part of the final design, things that just don't look good or may potentially compromise the health of the tree, like crossing branches, crossing roots, I try to get rid of those, even when I'm pruning landscape plants and street plants. So this is ready to go on my bonsai pot. Because it doesn't have a very perfect root base, I'm not going to worry about trimming it, and it'll just make sure that I have it kind of off center. So even just kind of twisting it in, it gets a nice little base there. I think I want to plant it more like this, which is fine. So now I'm gonna get some more soil. This is not the soil that it was in. I most definitely dropped all that over my bathroom floor, so it's still in my bathroom floor while I make sure that this survives. I can clean that up at any time, but I cannot bring this back to life if I've already killed it. And I love this tree. Even Jay liked this tree too. He agreed. Beautiful leaves. I mean, really cool, unique ficus. I know there's a lot of ficus varieties out there. I think this one's one of the more unique. I'm using, this is not a chopstick, nothing like that, but it has that little taper at the end. So what you can do is when you find that recess, you just keep going up and down. As long as you have particulate traveling up this, you're going to be pushing in and creating a cone. When you lift up, it can travel down towards the tip again because you're creating space for the particles to come back down. So if it's something very deep is why I like this, or I can stay away from the foliage. But as you do it, you're eventually just not gonna be able to push in as far because it's filled in. There are exceptions to that. Generally, it's very easy to fill in the spaces, fill in the gaps without having to do any kind of fussing about. Now this soil has very fine akadama, however it's pronounced, but it also has really big pieces of pine bark, which is a struggle when it comes to planting anything in it. And considering this is almost a mame, it's so small, it's really a shohin. Sorry, that's another reason it's a nice, because I can hold up higher and still do some of my sorting. Now, if this is a real repot and I hadn't just done it recently, this is kind of an emergency repot. I want to get it done quickly, and I am not in a position where I think it's wise for me to root prune. Even though this has plenty of vigor, I don't want to lose that vigor. I want to keep most of the roots here. So I did a little cleanup, but not much else. I've also not let go of the plant. You can see I'm still gripping it with a death grip between my fingers here. I'm being as careful as I can not to touch this little bud over here, but I don't want it to move while I'm tamping things down. Air pockets are our enemy when it comes to root development. And as I continue to get all this around the roots, and it'll really hold the plant in, I don't want it moving around to create new pockets until it's already kind of anchored. Because I don't tie in most of my plants, and again, that's depending on the plant, because I don't tie it in, it makes it very important for me to be very, not steady at hand, but meticulous about how I do this part, or I can cause damage to the tree that's irreversible. Even with no root pruning, if I have big air pockets down here, I can absolutely, see how nice it is to have that nice long stick? I can do it around my fingers, through the leaves. I can stay up high. I'm almost, I think my hand's almost even out of the plane of vision. And I'm starting to get this pretty well tamped here. I don't worry about spillage so much. It's gonna spill a little bit. And realistically, if the bonsai mix is heaped up, it's because you have enough. And if it spills over, it's because it's still moving. And moving's good. If there's movement, it means you're still supposed to be working on it. When it stops moving, it means you've probably gone as far as you need to go. So I think I've gone as far as I need to go to get it to hold pretty well. I'm gonna give it a little push down. Yeah, see, it hardly moves when I do that. I am not done filling in. This might even be mounted up a little bit. Don't want it to be, but it'll be nice because when I'm done, this will be right almost at the top of the pot. And as it grows out of the pot, I'll be able to see it lift. You don't always want that, but I think for the number of plants I have and the way that they all grow, this one grows so rapidly in comparison, it'll be really nice to have a visual indicator that it's overgrown its pot. And even as it is now, it's not overgrown this pot. I may have been able to trim farther back. Again, you know, I know that's gonna be criticism, but I am being as conservative as I can without being too conservative and causing damage with this plant for that reason. So what I'm doing, you can see, is I'm pushing in, tapping, just to make sure all this soil goes into those spots. And some of these roots are trying to pop up, that's fine, because that's what is kind of supposed to happen. I'm pushing soil in and it's popping up. I can trim those roots back at the soil line, because these aren't the feeler roots that kind of are investigating where roots can grow. These are just little roots. And this fact isn't even connected. That's from a different plant that was just in this mix because I reused bonsai soil. I know, terrible. But yeah, I'm pushing down, making sure everything kind of gets tamped in, filled in. I do the tap method, but not yet on this tree because it is too full. I'll just end up tapping soil out. But I do like getting this all really nicely filled in. I mean, it's pretty sturdy in there. It's not going anywhere. There's not a whole lot to move, which is also nice, but I really want to be careful of air pockets considering how I treated the roots and how this isn't an intentional repotting. It was the first repot. Yeah, I know it's taking me a while. I'm not doing any cuts or anything like that. I still have to figure out how to do all the editing on videos so that I could do cuts in the future. But as it is now, this is just a, you know, non-stop. See, there's a nice little, I always change my angle. I go in and I find little air pockets that didn't need to be there. So it's a good thing I do. Take some of this out. I just throw these in here so I can dispose of them well, but now I need a little more soil there. And it does kind of try to move around the pot when I'm working like this. It tries to you know, lift up on one side because I'm pushing down on the other. I'm okay with that. When I'm all done, I will use my thumbs and really make sure this is pressed down as much as it can be. Make sure it's been tapped to remove any kind of air bubbles. But I'm still finding that even though, you know, you don't want the plant to be moving, I'm finding a lot more places where soil just taps right in too easily. Like here, it wants to go under this mass of weird sideways roots. So it may be I'm pushing it out the other side, so I'm gonna come from this side instead and just make sure it's in there. And I think that's as filled in as I can make it without, again, pushing stuff out the top. So I'm gonna use my thumbs and I'm gonna just feel to make sure. Start at near the trunk, work my way kind of out. You can feel some soft spots on the outsides. I'm okay with that because what I want to do is I want to have it a little bit below the edge on the outside, but I want it mounded up in the center around all the healthy roots. All right, so that's okay. There isn't a front on this tree really yet. Eventually there may be. If I was to say there was a front, I'd say this is the front. Sorry, I probably lifted it out of view. But this is a little bud that I didn't know was there. This is all budding out nicely. I think you can see if I turn it like this is budded out super nice. So emergency repot on the Ficus triangularis. This will start the first playlist of Ficus triangularis. My only one. I haven't seen any since that one nursery, Meehan's in Maryland. So I don't anticipate having more ficus. This will probably be the only plant in that. I put it in this pot because it would fit in this pot. I do think it's a better scale. I don't love the pot for it. but because this has so many colors, both of them, I think it'll do for now. I'll probably just put some even sized rocks on the bottom to space it up so it has airflow below. Again, want plenty of airflow below. Everything's tamped in nice. I will water this thoroughly and put it in a different spot on the shelf where I'm not going to knock it over again and break it. Episode 12 of Taco Bonsai. I'm Taco. Like, subscribe, comment, share, please. All those things. Little favor from you, but a big favor for me, which I like that ratio. I like to ask very little of you and give all that I can. So I appreciate you watching this. I would appreciate any kind of help you would have to improve my technique in the future. And of course, if someone knows a good pot that would fit this tree, send me a link to it. I haven't decided where this tree is supposed to go. I do like this size and shape so far, but not exactly this size, not exactly this shape, and not exactly these colors. This isn't a bonsai pot, it's a temporary pot. So yeah, send that to me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will, you'll be viewing this the day after I film this because I don't want to double dip too much on days. I don't think that my views are high enough to be posting many videos on one day. I'd rather stay consistent than try to bombard you guys. So this will be posted the day after episode 11. And it's probably long enough as it is. I mean, it's not a bad plan, but hopefully it'll do well in this container as well. Thanks and have a great day.